Renting is officially cheaper than buying, at least that's what they say on paper, but there's one important stat that everybody's missing, and we'll cover it today in your January 2026 housing market update. What is going on, party people? In this video, as we do always, we're going to get you caught up to date as far as what is happening in the national real estate news, as well as what's happening here in our local Central Virginia market. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you 3 practical tips that we're currently giving to not only our prospective selling clients, but also our prospective buying clients. Let's jump into it. So affordability was the year of 2025, and renting has officially become cheaper than buying, or at least that's a headline. Let's dive a little bit deeper into it. So in all 50 major metros, renting is currently cheaper than buying on a payment per month basis. And that is definitely I think the factoid that a lot of consumers are walking around with. But keep in mind, everybody pays a mortgage. It's really just a question of whose mortgage you're paying on a monthly basis. I would submit to you the one stat that is not being talked about as much is that the home price expectation survey, which is basically a survey of economists, a large number of real estate economists, and they predict how much price growth or price appreciation that we're expected to see over the next 5 years. They predicted that if you bought a median priced home of $400,000, which is about the median price in Central Virginia in 2025, and you just held that property until 2030, you would experience approximately $61,381 of appreciation. That is simply the amount of net worth that you'd be building simply by owning that home over that 5-year time period. So the important point to remember with that, in my humble opinion, is home ownership still builds wealth. And First American's data clearly shows it. Even buyers who purchased in the not optimal time of 2006 ended up ahead over that 20-year run versus folks that rented in that same 20-year period. Now, the good news is affordability is actually improving slowly but meaningfully. 35 of the top 50 metros improved year over year, and 48 of 50 metros improved month over month. Zillow.com says that we are at a 3-year high for home price affordability, or housing affordability, I should say. In other news, inventory nationally is at its highest level since 2019, so we are officially out of the COVID craziness. We've had over 1 million active listings. Days on market are normalizing. We're in the low 60s nationally. Metro Richmond, we're still at a very low 14 days average days on market, but nationally, the housing market is starting to return to more of a normal market. Price reductions are up 20% year over year, and builders are throwing huge incentive at buyers to move their new construction product. Lennar, one of the biggest production builders in the country, is devoting 14% of their sales price towards concessions right now, concessions and incentives, which is absolutely bonkers. If you figure that the median home price is $400,000, that's $56,000 that Lennar is currently throwing at buyers to move their product, which is absolutely insane in my humble opinion. And with all this affordability improving, buyers' optimism is rising. Over 50% of renters feel hopeful about buying a home in the next 2 years, according to a recent survey. In the 2026 outlook, the chief economist of the National Association of Realtors, Lawrence Yun, expects a 10 to 15% increase in sales volume, essentially the number of homes that will sell as rates continue to ease. So that's a big national backdrop. You might be asking, hey, what's happening in our backyard here in Central Virginia? Well, let's dive into that. So what we're experiencing, or what we experienced in December, was a normal winter slowdown layered on top of a market that's still structurally very, very tight. Heading into November, the number of homes for sale dropped. Basically, that means how many homes are left on the market at the end of the month. That dropped from 2,414 to 2,025. We saw the inventory basically tightening going into the winter, which is very normal for our region. New listings took a sharp seasonal slide downward from 1,503 properties to 959 listings. We're certainly not building a backlog of inventory going into 2026. We're thinning out again, and that absolutely matters. As far as buyer activity, pending sales dropped from 1,157 to 972. Closed sales, which keep in mind, went under contract a month or 2 ago, dropped from 1,200 to 939. This is classic Richmond winter seasonality. The buyers didn't vanish. The runway just got shorter this time of year, and the amount of inventory on the market simply dropped. Also, a very interesting stat, the percentage of listing price that sellers were getting is still at 100%, so sellers are still doing very, very well when they're listing their homes on the market. So the takeaway here for me is prices are stable. Sellers aren't getting bid up over list price like they were during the COVID frenzy. However, there's they're not discounting heavily either. Our current days on market is 15 days, so we're still selling extremely fast in the context of history, even if we've left behind the 3-day blink and you missed it kind of craze during the COVID years. In summary, Central Virginia is behaving like a tight market, taking a normal winter breather. Not a cooling market, not a weakening market, just seasonality on top of long-term low supply. You might be asking yourself, hey Chris, this is all great. What does this actually mean for me? So now, as always, we're gonna give you our 3 tips that we're currently giving to our selling clients as well as to our buying clients. For my selling clients, number 1, pricing discipline matters again. I know your neighbor was able to throw their house on the market doing absolutely nothing to it during COVID and they got multiple offers. That's simply not the market that we're in anymore. You're not getting punished for pricing properly. Homes that are aligned with comps are still selling in under 2 weeks, but that discipline of pricing appropriately matters again. Secondly, home condition is a leverage multiplier. So the homes that are in turnkey shape are selling quickly and they still have negotiation leverage. Buyers are more rate sensitive now. When inventory is tight and buyers feel stretched, turnkey homes win, and we're definitely seeing that in this market. And then last but not least, listing early in 2026 is a strategic advantage. So what I know is that everybody and their mother wants to list their property in April and May, and that's totally fine if you fall into that category. But the buyers tend to start coming out in droves rather in the month of January, and the inventory typically doesn't catch up to them until April and May. So the folks that list in January, February, March tend to do very well because they are one of a few homes that are on the market when there's a drove of buyers that already begun their search starting in January. For my buyers, there's a lot of leverage to be gained with new construction right now. We already talked about it. Lennar, one of the biggest builders in the country, is dedicating up to 14% of their sales price towards concessions. So if you are somebody that is looking to get into new construction and you've been waiting for the right time, I would submit to you now is the right time. Secondly, don't overreact to the 20% down myth. It stuns me even to this day that there's still buyers that think they absolutely have to save 20% down in order to get a home. Certainly it's not a bad idea, but you can get into a home for as little as 3% down. If you're a veteran, you can get into a home for 0% down. If you're wanting to buy a home, but you just don't feel like you're there from a down payment standpoint, I would absolutely recommend that you talk to a mortgage lender who can show you your options. If you need a connection one, send me a DM or put a comment below and we'll connect you to a knowledgeable lender. And last but not least, get prepped now before rates continue to drop. What we know is as soon as the mortgage rates dip below the 6s into the high 5s, we expect the real estate market to become flooded again with folks that now decide that it's a great time to buy as opposed to 6.3 where mortgage rates are currently. So if you're somebody that's thinking about buying a home in 2026, I would absolutely encourage you to talk to a real estate professional, talk to a mortgage professional, get your ducks in a row now so that you can act before everybody and their mother decides it's a good time to buy a home. Well guys, that was our Central Virginia January 2026 market update. Hope you got some value in it. If you have any questions, concerns we didn't address, shoot me a DM, throw a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to serving you again this year.